Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and I'm here to talk to you about a Leeds United based sponsor on the channel, teamwallart.com. The link is in the description. Worldwide shipping, and it's unbelievable, guys. As I've told you before, this is the sort of stuff that you can get from these guys. My favourites on the end here, accused of everything, guilty of nothing since 1919. You can get this one for $5.99 if you buy another one for $7.99, and I did that. I've got the one of Marcelo Bielsa here, a beautiful image, really good quality as well, by the way, and of course the title winning boys. Some really good stuff on there, guys. As I said, the link is in the description. I went to these guys. I love this sort of stuff, and they are Leeds United fans. Go check it out. Enjoy the video. One Leeds is now sponsored by OneFootball. OneFootball is a really classy app. You can get all of your Leeds United updates on this app. You can get all the transfer news, injury news, match day news, and it really is top quality. The most downloaded app regarding football on the site. So make sure you go check it out. The link is in the description, and I hope you enjoy the video, guys. Hello everybody, welcome back to One Leeds. I don't really want to be here, I don't really want to do this, I'm down. I've had about 4 coffees to sort of spur me up for this absolute crap. I can't stand it, and I can't stand losing like that. Leeds United lose out to Aston Villa at home, 1-0, and we're here with a therapy session. We need to start calling these therapy sessions instead of reviews, even if we win, Brownie, because the anxiety we go through is just, it's turmoil. How are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, well, the sun's shining, but the birds are definitely not tweeting this morning, are they? I think I fired that tweet out, didn't I, about sum it up in 3 games and 3 words, sorry, and God.
3 games you wouldn't know either.
Well, we'll get onto that in a second as well. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, sum it up in 3 words, and it was.
What was your favourite? Did you find a favourite?
Was there quite a few that made me chuckle? It cheered me up, to be fair, and you just couldn't argue with any of them coming in, were there?
No, you couldn't at all.
The biggest one was need players back. Boys, we need players back.
Need transfer window, maybe. But yeah,
when you flip it round, we're 10th in the Premier League, so we're just it's just one of them though, where we are 10th in the Premier League, but we didn't deserve to. It's another game where we shouldn't have lost, but we did.
I know. It's no, you bang on, mate. I think that's a really good way of like summarising it straight off the bat. It's a game where, once again, you look at Everton. Everton was another one where they sort of got away with it and we lost the game. And we're going to learn these lessons. And I think it's important to say that we're 10th, we're overachieving. We're still only 4 points behind Villa, which is they've had a magnificent season. But I think it's key to say, Brownie, I don't know about you, mate, but it had a bit of an end of season vibe to it. And I don't know whether or not that's because both teams, I don't think Villa are going to get into Europe. And we're not going to get into Europe, and I think we're safe. So it just had a bit of a strange vibe about it. It was an awful game to watch, wasn't it?
I think another one of the words that got sent in was lackluster, and it just didn't seem to have any. There was no like, come on, let's get on with it type of thing. It was just all very slow, methodical, and the frustrating thing for me is we get ourselves into these good positions where we can jump to 8th, and it's happened a few times this year, and then we've not. We've got beat. Yeah. There's been a few times where we could get into that 7th or 8th position, which I mean is massively overachieving for us this year. Let's be right. 7th, 8th is in dreamland for us. But when you're knocking on the door, it's frustrating not to get in there. And Villa aren't a better team than us. They're not. What I saw last night was it just felt like they got the goal and they just sat for 85 minutes. Martinez with his goal kicks. Rumour has it he's still taking one now. It's just infuriating. I mean, the 5 minutes added on, and it sounds like we're being bitter and everything, and possibly are, but you want the game to be reffed right, and I just thought Peter Banks was weak. He got bullied. He got absolutely bullied. He booked Pablo Andes for dissent when he got elbowed on the back of the head. Mings was screaming in his face in the first half. Nothing. He got bullied by that Villa, to be fair.
It's what you get with Villa, though. Like Villa, I always look at them and I think you've got Mings in there, you've got McGinn, you've got Grealish when he's available, you've got Matty Cash, you've got Watkins, and they've all had success in their career from. And listen, we're not just saying the cheats or anything because they're not, but they've got a very good level of gamesmanship and they know exactly what they're doing. And we'll get onto Llorente in a little bit, but if we are going to touch on that Llorente incident just briefly, Brownie, at the start. It was shocking what happened, but the difference is I called it out on Twitter. Every Leeds fan's calling it out on Twitter. When you're getting people comparing the Leeds and Villa ethos, nobody ever calls out Jack when it happens. Nobody ever calls out McGinn when McGinn's doing it 6 or 7 times in the game. And that's the difference. At Leeds, it's not tolerated. It's tolerated.
Target, he was just as bad as Llorente. There was one in the first half where Costa got away from him and he was breaking into the box. Nobody, I want a foul. Just threw himself to the floor. Roberts, when he was getting the ball off him, flung himself in the air. There was one that hadn't even got picked up on. It was in injury time when Meslier went up for the corner. Mings went down, rolling around, all on his ankle. He showed the replay. Nobody touched him.
Yeah.
But it's the thing, like I've said previously, when something happens to Leeds, whether it's Spygate or the goal that we gave Villa, anything that Leeds do, it's just magnified and blown up because it's Leeds.
Brownie Target did the exact same thing because he literally when Roberts apparently, when Roberts sort of tapped him on the ankle, he then went down rolling around and then within seconds he's up and he's in the ref's face. So the principle's the exact same. It just doesn't fit agendas.
Exactly. It's just magnified when it's Leeds. You've got Boring Inchcliffe calling Llorente out, rightly so. Target does it. Oh, well, he might have got a little touch. What? It's just like chalk and cheese.
He's a Wednesday fan, though, and he's on another level.
I replied to a tweet last night. He's Don Goodman Mark II. I thought we got in the Premier League to get away from people like that. He's followed us with us.
He has, mate. He has. But trying to get away from sounding like bitter gits. But I mean, initially
that's how that game went. It was frustrating on so many levels. But like you say, it's
Brownie touching on what you're saying there. If you've got someone like Peter Banks in charge and you've got a referee in charge of the game where it works, and it does work because, teams like that get away with it. They get away with it and they're going to continue doing it.
Yeah, well, he's weak. I mean, I remember him reffing a game last year at QPR away when Naki Wells did a double dribble and put it in the net. He was weak. He sent Phillips off in that. He was weak in that game. Whenever I see Peter Banks referee, he gets bullied.
Yeah,
he has teacher vibes to him refereeing a game.
Yeah, going up against Villa as well with the players that are just up in his face all the time. That's not going to help.
No, of course not. But that's the thing. Like you just said, if you can get away with it, you do it.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
Setting the precedent, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So initially the lineup, the big conversation was Jack Harrison coming out, Helder Costa coming in. I mean, I didn't mind it, to be honest. I didn't mind it at all. I mean, what were your initial thoughts on that?
I was surprised. Especially because we touched on the combinations at Villa Park. How Harrison he had a really good game at Villa Park. It just didn't work.
No,
did it? It just didn't work. But it was another game where going forward it didn't work, and I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. We just going forward. There was just nothing.
No, we
same against Wolves. Similar against Southampton until the last 20 minutes of the game. We just didn't really create anything. We have Raphinha's header in the 88th minute. Other than that, can't really think. Roberts had his chances in the first half again. One of them hit Subway. But another game that we didn't really create.
No, and we were saying, weren't we? We've just said it before stream, and I'll line this point up really. I actually wish Jack Grealish should have started, and the reason behind that is because anytime Grealish starts, Villa come out because Grealish is a very offensive player. He gets the ball, he dribbles, and you sort of set up with Grealish there. Even Matty Cash, to an extent, they get the ball, they're very attacking. And I think if they'd have come out with Grealish there, I think we'd have won the game. The difference is without Grealish, without Ross Barkley on the pitch, Like the fact that they didn't even start Ross Barkley and Grealish was out to be the main man, for me, just indicated that they were there to get the draw and see what really could happen. Maybe they could nick it. And that's how Villa completely set it. There was no way they were going to, there was stifling play from the 36th, the 5th minute. There was stifling play and time wasted. They didn't want to play this setup, and fair play to Villa because they came and did a proper job on us. And it was just really interesting that without Grealish, I remember at Villa Park, they just came at us. It was blow for blow, and it suited Leeds massively. This time, they didn't start really any of their offensive players, and it worked for Villa.
Yeah, it did. And we touched on it in the preview, didn't we, about the Bielsa Smith thing. He's never beaten him. And we said I could see him being cagey. I predicted it being a cagey game because I just felt like he knew if we went blow for blow, it wouldn't work. And it did have that cagey feel to it, get a goal sitting. Similar to it felt so much like the Brighton game. Get the goal and just sit in and just ride it out. And I think when you look back to the Championship in games, when teams have come to Ellen Road and just sat, we found it so difficult to break them down.
Had that vibe, didn't it?
Yeah, Wigan twice come, get a goal, sit, not move off the 18-yard box. And it had that vibe. When teams do it, we really do struggle against it.
Yeah, I think Luton sticks out to me as well, and Sheffield Wednesday when they came well and ready. It did have that feel for it, mate. Mate. I completely agree. It was. I mean, they scored, and it was just. Don't get me wrong. They were still pressing and stuff like that, and they were still sort of forcing us into mistakes, and we weren't creating anything. But it was very much breaking the game up, taking a long time. It was the tactics, it was the dark arts of football that sometimes I think. With Leeds United, and listen, we're a team with a lot of ethics and morals. That's why that'll be kicked out of Llorente. Because I'll tell you what, that was kicked out of Saiz. Saiz did that once or twice, and that never happened again. But yeah, and the gamesmanship sort of overrided the game. Really, Villa defended well, but I don't think they had much to defend, really, Brownie.
I mean, the first 4 minutes summed it up. Bamford's on the edge of the box, slips, shoots, and Raphinha misses it by a few inches right at the back post. Watkins gets on the ball, slips, shoots, and it falls to El Ghazi and he puts it in. That just summed up the game for me. It was just one of them games where we could still be playing now and it'd still be 1-0.
Yeah, I mean that pitch, Brownie. I mean, we're just. I think we're talking at the start, weren't we? Of actually, our Leeds going to be able to manage the game. Is it going to work in our favour? This was the first game where it didn't work into our favour. The ball breaks to Ollie Watkins on the edge of the box. Ollie Watkins is evidently going for a strike on goal. He's got nothing to aim at, really. His foot caves way underneath him, and it falls right into the path of Anwar El Ghazi, who really finishes it really nicely. 2-touch finish. Are you looking? I mean, this is why I'm struggling to blame Costa for it, really, because it was completely freakish, and in a split second, I don't expect him to be marking Anwar El Ghazi there. Costa's actually trying to keep the line, which is sort of understand what he's doing. But I mean, it was just once again, and we had it with Traore, we've had it obviously with Palace this season, and it's not all poor me, poor Leeds, and all that sort of stuff. But you do feel sometimes we just do not get the look of the green, do we?
No, I mean it's one of them where if Costa stands 2 or 3 yards further back, you're saying he's too deep.
Yeah,
you'd point the finger and say he's too deep. It is his man, though, so there's no shying away from it. But I'm not really sure he could have done anything else. He couldn't have gone any deeper. Otherwise, then the rest of the team dropped deeper as well and we stood on Meslier's toes. It's just one of them things where he has shot goal, and if he hadn't slipped, Meslier just takes it in both hands.
Yeah, he does, because it's not there. I mean, there's too many. I mean, I actually liked our defensive shape there. There was men behind the ball. It looked like it was a decent system. And I think, to be honest, Brownie, when you get a striker who wants to receive the ball on the edge of the box, that's because he's not getting enough of the ball in and around the penalty spot. And I know it was only the 4th, 5th minute in, but Watkins knows what it's like playing against Leeds. And he was trying to, he was coming to collect the ball on the outside of the box. And immediately he's only thinking about one thing, and he's shooting from the edge of the area. I'm fine with that normally, but he really did get the look.
Well, he was isolated last night, wasn't he? There was a few times in the second half when they tried to break. It was just Watkins up there on his own. Like they had the game plan and it worked. They came and did a job on us.
Yeah, and it was reflected by his touch map. His touch map, I think, was one of the lowest on the pitch as well, which sort of indicates how Villa came in and did a job, really. I've just got down here, 32nd minute, 36th minute. It took Emi Martinez 40 seconds each to take a goal kick. Hey, Brownie, can I just ask you one question? Because if we're talking about that and we're discussing that, are we? Is that sometimes something that Leeds need to adapt into the play, a little bit of gamesmanship here and there?
Yeah, definitely. I've said before on the show that we're too nice. There was a few times where I think Roberts and Costa, they got barged in the back, but they're staying on the feet, and I'm screaming, "Go down!" And it's a horrendous thing to say, but you don't get it. Peter Banks would, if a player does, he'll give a free kick, and it just gets that free kick. Whereas other teams, what's the right phrase? Streetwise, a bit more streetwise with it, going down. Like I've mentioned before, when Costa robbed Target on the edge of the box and he was in on goal, Target just went down. Referee gave a free kick.
Yeah,
it's the cop out for the referee. Right, the player's gone down. Let's give a free kick. There was one where Raphinha slipped in the box and he must have caught the defender's shoelace, and he's gone down. Free kick. Whereas Llorente aside, last night we were staying on our feet a lot, which is good to see. That's what you want to see. But when the other team aren't doing it, you think we're getting mugged off here.
But as well, it's not just the Bielsa thing. This is a Leeds thing, because we'll remember years and years ago when Adrian did it, and it's shushed out by the fan base. It's not something, and it's spoken about, and we're all sort of like, what's all that about? And the players definitely pick up on that vibe, and I think it happened with Adrian, it happened with Saiz. It's Llorente did it last night. And I'm not having a go at Llorente, but it's not Leeds, and I do like that. But it's a weird one, because it's like, the dark arts in football. You see every other club doing that.
Game management, mate. Game management.
Yeah, it is game management.
I mean, I tweeted out 1 minute and loads of laughing faces. Just again, Peter Banks. There was more than 1 minute added on in that first half, but he gave 1 minute, and even in the second half, he added 5. It could have been 10. In that 5 minutes, he spoke. During the corner, there was a corner when Meslier went up. He wasted 1 minute and 10 seconds there. Didn't add it on. There was a goal kick that Martinez took 52 seconds on. There's 2.5, 3 minutes gone of that 5 minutes. Don't get added onto it. It's just game management and seeing the game out. And fair play to Villa for doing it, because from the 4th minute, their game management was spot on. Absolutely spot on. And that's what you need to do to get 3 points.
And that's why we're all frustrated and talking about it today. Listen, if the game management wasn't what it was and they decided to come and play with Leeds, they'd have lost the game. We saw that at Villa Park. They've lost the game. So that's he learned from it.
Llorente's throwing himself, which we've all called out, and none of us like it. And I think you're right. The Leeds fans don't seem to like it. I thought he was one of the only positives last night, Llorente. I thought he was excellent.
I thought it was fantastic.
Which then makes me move on to the striking centre defensive midfield. It just doesn't work. He was the one who got brought off. And then you think, well, where's he going to play? Because he's not dropping Cooper. And you can't knock him, because Cooper, again, didn't put a foot out of line.
Nice. I mean, Joe Griffiths has got it here. Llorente, I think I put this out on a tweet as well. 1v1 defending. He has pace and strength. I mean, there was one where Watkins tried to pace him. And I always remember this, Brownie, because I did a little bit of a scouting report on the channel about Llorente when he first signed. And I actually spoke to the Spanish journalist about him who did a video on the channel, and he said that his 1v1 defending is absolutely exceptional. And you could see that anytime Watkins went 1v1 with him, just couldn't get round him. He's too quick. He reads the game very, very, and he's aggressive in the tackle.
I didn't realise his pace until that you mentioned then about the Watkins when he tried to burn it. Watkins won't be no slouch. And Llorente has breezed past him. I thought he grew again from the previous game against Southampton. His passes into midfield, he's threading them through the lines. He looks, touch wood, where if he don't get any more injuries, he's going to establish himself back in that team. And then you've got Koch coming back, Strike, Cooper. It's not a bad 4 to pick from.
Yeah. All things Leeds. Hopefully, Llorente recovers quickly from that horrible challenge in the first half where Watkins had the audacity to pick him up.
Pick him up. I don't like that. What's the other player touching?
Mings did it. Mings did it with Bamford
in the first half, in the first game at Villa Park. And you think, like, for example, don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing the two, but when Jimenez went down in the Arsenal game when he had a fracture skull, imagine the uproar if a player's picking him up, telling him to get up, and he's got a fracture. You don't know what's happened to the player. You don't know what Romeo went down in the Southampton game. He ended up with a fractured ankle. Imagine if one of the Leeds players has picked him up.
Brownie, imagine imagine if one of the Leeds players had done that to John McGinn, who was play acting. Imagine that. You'd have got Mings running in. You'd have got Watkins running in. You'd have got all of them running in.
It goes back to us being too nice again, though, in the game management. It's back in the 70s with Leeds. That's what Leeds would do.
Yeah.
Leeds would steam in. You look at the Bremner Keegan punching each one in, all in. And I like that, to be fair. I like backing your teammates up.
I do. Brownie. I'm a massive. I really agree. I think that's a really good point, mate. Yeah. Listen, I know they're all mates. They're all mates. You can see that they've got a really good camaraderie. You could really see that with Granny Val as well. They've got a real respect for one another. It's great. Yeah. But the only nasty player in our side is Raphinha. He's the only nasty player for me, and probably Llorente's got it. And it's a Europe. Obviously, it's the European continental factor when it comes in. You bring that influence over. But I do think, Brownie, that, let's say if one of our players go down, there was a brilliant example. Stuart Dallas went down, and it was Target with that horrible tackle when he didn't get booked by Peter Banks. It was the first one. Dallas went down in the corner, held his leg. It was an outright yellow card. Outright, didn't book him. He's down in the corner. Dallas gets up. I think Target pats him on the back. Don't want to get a yellow card. Pats him on the back. Dallas turns around and goes, "It's all right, mate." No one goes around and says, because it was a bad tackle, that. No one goes around. He just gets away with it.
Cooper's nearby and he's captain. If he goes steaming in, and then you've got, who else is in midfield? I don't know, Strike or Llorente goes piling over.
It's getting yellow.
He gets another yellow. Yeah. It's that pressure on the referee. We can see the referee's weak. And I know we spoke about the referee quite a bit. I think I'd have said the same thing even if we'd have won. Whenever he referees Leeds or any game in general, it comes across as weak. And you can get around referees like that. And it's that, is it dark arts? Is it game management? It's probably a combination of both. It's just that, like I've said, touching on Leeds back in the 70s, it was one in, all in. And we don't have that.
With regards to just some of the obviously with our attacking impetus yesterday, it didn't really feel like we had many ideas. I mean, the ball would get to Ayling quite a few times, and it'd be that just sort of hopeless ball in to Bamford, and it was it always hit Mings, wouldn't it? And it just wasn't working on that standpoint at all for Leeds.
No, the crossing wasn't great last night. But am I allowed to take my gag off yet?
We've touched on Llorente. Can we touch on, before you take your gag off, Raphinha, image of him at the end, but I just want to make a point with Raphinha. It must be, and we were talking about it last night, it must be so frustrating for him sometimes, because he's probably been, he'll have been brought in with the intention, look, we brought a German international, a Spanish international. We brought in, it were two Spain internationals, and you're going to be playing with them, and they're going to be playing throughout the season. And Rafa must have looked at that and thought, right, okay, well, they're at my level. We can play. They're internationals. They're going to up my game. And I think at the minute, you saw it in the Southampton game when me and you spoke about it afterwards, and we said, look, he could have about 15 assists every single time. It must be so frustrating. It's like when you got the best player at school and nobody else is on his level at all. And you're just seeing it with Rafa at the minute. There was a couple of times where maybe Bamford should have made a run when he had the ball, and Roberts maybe should have turned, and Click should have made a little bit of a darting run into the box, and Rafa's looking for it every single time. But they're just not on his wavelength. And sometimes you can see it, and it was sort of him slumped against the advertising board again.
The old Pontus Jansson's pose, wasn't it? And I said it last week, and I think a few comments questioned me on it. He'll be frustrated. It's frustration, like you've said. He's playing with players that, let's be right, aren't on his level. He's getting linked with 60, 70, 80 million pound moves. Nobody else in the Leeds team is. It's fact. He's on a different level. And we've got a lot of players out injured, so like the thing we said at the start, we've summed it up in 3 words: need players back. Maybe that will really help. What's this one say? The one thing we have to say to you guys: we were flat, but we still look solid at the back. Yeah, we did look solid at the back. The their goal did come from a corner which was headed out to what it was a phase. It was a different phase of play, but originally it was a corner.
But Brownie, sorry, thanks for your comment, Futra. But with Rafa, because I do want to touch on him. I think we do need players back, because it's a weird one. I want him to see, and listen, you can they can tell him about the long-term projects and all this sort of stuff, but I just want Rodrigo and I want Koch, and I want them to be in the same team as him for a period of time, so he can see. I mean, he's not seen the qualities of Robin Koch at all. He's barely played with him. He might not even have played with him at all from the start. You know, Rodrigo, he's played with him a handful of times, but you kind of want him to get these connections with these players so we can see what it's going to be like in the future when we get even more players of that level. And just at this moment in time, he must be looking at it and thinking, God, even depth wise, we don't have enough to be competing with teams. So I think that, do you know what it is, Brownie? I'll pinpoint it. I think from his level and his perspective, we all know as Leeds fans we're doing extremely well, but from Rafa's perspective, you could tell yesterday when he was slumped, the consistency must be very annoying for him.
He'd be frustrated with the pitch, 100%. He's a winger, likes to go at speed, he likes to do tricks. Pitch is not going to help him at no ends. The other thing for me, we touched on it earlier on about Harrison and Costa. And we said put Raphinha on that side to target El Mohammadi. It takes away the combination with him and Ayling whenever we shift him across. And he's then gone over to the other side of the pitch and he's playing with Dallas, who didn't look like they knew each other that first half. There was passes going into each other from both players that just weren't meeting each other. And it's that consistency of playing with the same people and like understanding and getting them combinations together. And it just feels like we're constantly chopping and changing, which will be another frustration part. And we are constantly chopping and changing the players, moving players around. Sometimes it works and we look like we can adapt to different things. And then last night, it just didn't work, to be fair.
Click. The
midfield last night was non-existent first half.
I mean, we'll know Brown. I mean, I used to play in midfield. You used to play with some top quality midfielders as well. You lose the midfield battle, you lose the game. That's the nooks and crannies of a football game. And I think last night, even with a fair few players out, and this is, listen, Villa have had investment. You look at what Villa have got on the bench. Samson from Marseille, they've got Ross Barkley on the bench, John McGinn, Ramsey in the middle. I thought Ramsey had a good game for them, to be fair. And I think they were good at carrying the ball. John McGinn's a very good ball carrier. And I thought they passed our midfield by very easily yesterday.
Yeah, midfield, I was going to tweet at half time, but didn't want to get hammered again. But it was non-existent in the midfield last night. There was just nothing in there. And I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry. There's just nothing. There's no creativity. I keep seeing he's tidy. He carries the ball well. Brilliant. But what's that get you? A centre attacking midfielder needs to link between midfield and attack. Needs to create things. And we're having to revert to hopeless crosses into the box because we're not creating anything. And I mean, on the last show, there was a comment about, well, Rodrigo's not doing it either, so you can't pin it on Roberts. Well, I'm sorry, he is. Rodrigo's started 11 games. We've scored 22 goals in them 11 games. Roberts has started 6. We've scored 2.
And he's getting chances as well, isn't he? He's getting big chances.
In the 2 games where we have scored, he started against Sheffield United at Bramwell Lane. He got dragged at half-time. We scored in the second half. He started against Man City. He got dragged. We scored after he came off. Southampton, he got an assist, yeah. But when he went off, we scored another 2 goals. So the difference between Rodrigo and Roberts, and I got asked the question, that's why it's coming up, is we create things. He's an attacking midfielder. His job is to create things. And yes, I get he's young. He's played nearly 80 games. I listened to the Square Ball, who made a good point. There was loads of us writing Phillips off when he was 22, which was fair enough. We were, and now he's an England international. So you've got that argument to his side. But Leeds are wanting to progress. We're not wanting to come and make the numbers up. That's not going to keep Raphinha. That's not going to keep Bielsa. We need to progress. There's no comparison. When Roberts plays when everybody else is injured. And why is that? If Roberts is so good, why is he only playing when everybody else is injured? When Rodrigo's fit, Rodrigo plays 100%. It's because, like you've said with Raphinha, he needs better players around him, and it brings out the best of other people. And it's not like Roberts isn't getting into good areas, because he is, but he could have scored 3 goals in the last 2 games, and it's a completely different argument. But at the end of the day, he hasn't.
Yeah, and I think Paul Hunt's sort of summarised it quite well. Does Roberts realise his place? His future's at stake, and I think
I'm not just picking out Roberts. I'm more so because I got asked the question regarding Rodrigo and Roberts. What's the difference? Well, the difference is 20 goals. So unless we score 20 goals in the next 5 games that Roberts starts, that's the difference. It's no coincidence that when Rodrigo plays, we're much more attack. I mean, he started the last 3 games. We didn't score against Wolves. We didn't score against Villa. We're just not. And going forward, let's be right. We've looked toothless. We haven't looked like creating anything. The Wolves game was set pieces alone. We just don't seem to be creating anything with him in there.
So what if you're okay? So if we're talking about Roberts now, obviously I'm gonna have to play devil's advocate. Yeah. So with regards to Rodrigo, he's had a fair few games. Villa's probably one of the exceptions actually when Phillips wasn't there, but he's had a fair few games where Leeds have had a much stronger team in and around Rodrigo. Roberts, like you say, Brownie, is at this moment in time is a bit of a bit part player. But when he's been a bit part player, there's bit part in every other position around him. You know, you've got striking and behind him. Klick, who, let's be right, Brownie. Yesterday for me, Matthias Klick's hiding. So he's in the midfield.
All 3 of them in midfield, they were non-existent. Completely agree, mate. So yeah, you've got something there where he's playing with bit part players. I wouldn't say he was playing with a bit part players against when he started against Man City or Sheffield United. He started in both of them games, which surprised me when I was looking at it. I didn't realise he'd started against Man City. He started at Bramwell Lane. Phillips played at Bramwell Lane. He's not always played, but he got dragged off at half time. And that's not the first time he's been dragged off at half time. I think what Paul said there, and I think it goes to quite a few of them, we can't just in an ideal world, it'd be great. Finishing the Premier League, 17th, brilliant, job done. But that's not going to attract the top players in Europe, and that's what Leeds United want. It's not going to keep Bielsa at Leeds. It's not going to keep Raphinha at Leeds. Yeah, Morley White, you're absolutely bang on. We have overachieved. But when you flip it round, Chris Wilder overachieved last year, and he's probably if you want Mr. Sheffield United to be out of a job, Nuno, he overachieved, and now he's regressing. When you overachieve, you've got to keep going. You sometimes you what's the right phrase? Because you're overachieving, you're setting yourself up for a fall, basically, because you are overachieving.
So what is it, in your opinion, yesterday? Obviously, I mean, we didn't have the options, Brown. I think we had about 3 or 4 centre midfielders out. So what would you have done differently to start the game? Would you have just not played Roberts?
No, I'd have played. I'd have played Roberts. But he plays when nobody else can. For me,
do you prefer him out wide?
I prefer him when the game's open, and I've said this before. It's like if he'd have come on in that Southampton game when Romeo went off, he'd have looked a world beater because the game was wide open. It's a completely different game starting a game to finishing one. But you're right with what you say. He's playing with bit part players around him. But is he? Raphinha's on one side, Bamford's in front of him, Klick's behind him. Then, for me, they're not bit part players.
So Martin Butters has just said, I think you've been a tad negative. We lost the game due to midfield injuries.
That's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, I'd agree with him there.
He plays because people are injured.
Yeah.
We do need, he's right, we do need players back, and it was just a frustrating game. It just felt like we shouldn't have lost even with the team we had out. And I mean, the biggest Roberts fan out there will hope that Rodrigo and Phillips are back for West Ham away. That tells me its own story. Why would you be pleading for Rodrigo to be back if Roberts is doing it?
Yeah, no, but I think it is important to stress that, obviously, you're talking about Roberts, and I think what you're talking about there is an individual point on, is Tyler Roberts good enough for Leeds United right now? You're not, and I think this is key to say, what Brownie's not doing, and I'm sure he don't mind me speaking for him here, but what he's not doing is turning around and saying, we're rubbish, we're this, we're that. It's not about. It's not. We're not talking about We're not talking about the game. We're talking about Tyler Roberts' development, and if it's a talking point, is he going to be within this setup next year? Does he need to start proving himself on a more consistent level? As Brownie said, he can't just be featuring when a player's injured. I mean, Brownie, but who is a backup to Rodrigo? Who's going to come in and be that backup to Rodrigo then? Because we're going to have to spend. Is somebody going to come to Leeds United and know that they're going to be backing up Rodrigo?
Well, I think we've mentioned it through the week that we've got our eye on 5 key players in the summer, aren't we? I think we'll go big again in the summer. I'll be amazed if DePaul isn't at Leeds next year with all the noise that's been around him for the last 6-7 months. I think he'll come in. And then that's what I mean by, I'm not saying he's not a good professional, Roberts. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying to get to that next level, as Leeds fans, we all want to get to that next level. We all want to run before we can walk. And we are just back in the Premier League. But to get to that next level, is he going to get us there? This year, we need to stay in the Premier League. I get that. And we're doing brilliantly. And I'm not saying we're rubbish. We're unbelievable to watch and think. I'm just saying I got asked the question, well, what does Rodrigo do that Roberts doesn't? Well, we score goals when Rodrigo's in the team. And that's an attacking midfielder's job. But saying that, I said it myself. The midfield last night was it just there was nothing in there. And it wasn't
just Roberts, was it?
No, it wasn't just Roberts. No, I'm saying going forward, it was another game where we didn't look like creating anything. It was just hopeless balls into the box that Mings was just gobbling up, which was frustrating. But I'm not saying we got beat because of Roberts. By no means. No, we got beat because we just, I don't know, it was just lackluster, wasn't it? But I can't remember. I think it was Morley White who said it. We are doing brilliantly well. I'm not saying we're not. We're well above where any of us could have imagined us to be. So you got to flip it around and say, yeah, we are doing well. It's just that next step. The summer's massive, and I do want Roberts to develop and be a good Leeds player. But the way it's going, there's a few Leeds players that are playing for the futures.
Who would you involve in that bracket?
Well, I didn't realise how old Click was. He's touching into his 30s. Alioski hasn't signed the new deal yet. Costa got a chance last night. We are going to sign Harrison, so I can't put it. Harrison, I think, is done, but we sign him in the summer. I think he'll be one of the 5. So you are looking at Costa, Roberts, Click, Alioski. And I mean, this will sound really weird because I think he's been unbelievable. But he doesn't look like he's going to play strike centre half. And if he can't do it in defensive midfield, where's he featuring? Because does he get in front of Cooper? We've seen last night, no, because he's played Cooper centre back. Does he get in front of Llorente? Probably not. Cox to come back. So there's a big question. There's a talking point. What's our main 2 centre halves going forward into next season?
He's got to play. Strike's got to be a centre back. He's got to be a centre back. I think he's exceptional. I think he could be elite. I really do. I think he'll be top level Strike.
I saw a good tweet last night. Strike centre back, very good. Strike defensive midfielder, very not. It just doesn't work with him in there. But again, flipping it round to what we said about Roberts, he's playing with bit part players in him. He's got Roberts in front of him, whereas Roberts got Strike behind him. He's not playing with a Phillips next to him. He's not playing with a Rodrigo ahead of him. So it's hard, isn't it? And it's also hard, like playing devil's advocate and flipping it around again. Roberts is in and out. Strike's in and out of that position as well. He doesn't have a run of games in there. He has one, comes out, a few games later he goes back in. So you do need that consistency in there, which I'll back as well. Roberts, if Rodrigo's injured, just keep playing Roberts. We're safe. We're not going to go down. Keep playing Roberts in there. See if he does progress, because he has found his feet in the last few weeks. He has, but he does need to add that little bit. There was 2 in the Southampton game where he'll probably say himself he should score. So we just need to see that consistency and development. You're right, mate, but it just needs to come quicker.
I think being man crazy, but Strike wasn't god awful in centre in defensive midfield, just not the level you said. I think the key point, mate, with what you get with the central defensive midfielder is with Leeds, when we're making these angles, when it gets to the full-backs, when obviously it's at Melié's feet, we're seeing Melié go for Bamford a lot more. And the reason behind that, and the reason behind the full-backs going long and going into the channels a lot more, and us not really having that midfield option, and we're seeing us going into the channels a lot more from that, from Melié going to Bamford, but then the full-backs going in and behind their full-backs. The reason behind that is because Struijk will never go and ask for the ball in that role because he's not comfortable. If you press high on Pascal Struijk in a defensive midfield role, he can't deal with it, and that's not his fault. That's not his position. That's not what he's used to. And I think getting the ball and being able to recycle it quickly in that role is something that we have to do, and it's something that Calvin Phillips is very talented at. It's getting the ball on the back foot, first touch, bang. And like you've just said, Brownie, Click was saying it in his interview, with Leeds, what you always need to do is increase your speed. Increase your speed. Get the ball, get rid of it. Get the ball, get rid of it. Let's move. Let's transition into the attacking phase. Struijk in that role doesn't do that because he's used to having the entire pitch in front of him. And it's not only him, though. We're seeing that a lot more with Matthias Click. We've seen that with Tyler Roberts. The problem with what they're doing at this moment in time, they're overcompensating. They're taking too many touches. Could that be to do with the pitch at home? Potentially, because they're worried about slipping. But it also could be because there might be a little bit of a dampener on the confidence at this moment in time. We saw with Rodrigo at the start, Brownie, right at the very start, he was taking too many touches, but he ironed that out of his game. Click seems to be reverting back to it. Roberts has never evolved. And Pascal Struijk is not a defensive midfielder.
No, and which then echoes that the midfield last night, we just lost the battle in there, didn't we? We seemed to get bullied a little bit and it didn't work. But flipping it around, trying to be positive ahead of West Ham in our favourite place, London. Can't wait for that. We're doing all this 10th in the Premier League with players that any Premier League team would miss. Everybody's going to miss a Phillips. You would miss a Rodrigo. He's number 9 for Spain. Not me.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the thing. It never gets. We always say this when it's Leeds, it doesn't take into context. And I think the amount of centre back combinations we've had at the back is absolutely ridiculous. I think it should be 13, 14 now. But what we're going to do, Brown, is it's going to be much better next year. We know that. It's at this moment in time, I still think as Leeds fans, we're not. And I think, I don't know about you, mate, but I think the weird thing about it with this Leeds side is obviously with Bielsa, we've been so used to winning. And don't get me wrong, obviously we're losing now in nearly 50% of our games, if not more. But as well, we're not drawing games, so it doesn't take the edge off it. It's either a loss or it's a win, so it doesn't really take the edge off it.
It's 1 win in 4 now, which does echo. We do need our players back. That it's fact.
Yeah,
we've got 1 win in 4 games, which it doesn't feel like that. We feel like we're doing well, and we are doing well, but just the tweets we've had in and the comments about need players back, lackluster. That's how it's felt for the last few weeks. Maybe it's a coincidence of certain players playing when that's happened. Maybe it ain't. It's frustrating because you've seen how we've blown teams away. We've gone to Goodison Park, blown them away. We've gone to St James's. We've beaten Newcastle.
Villa.
We've gone to Villa Park and put 3 past them. We've drawn with Man City. We've had Arsenal at home and got a point off them. We've seen us play these teams and blow them off the park. Went to West Brom and scored 5. Battled a win out against Burnley. We've seen it, and then we'll throw in a performance not what we're used to. And it is a mentality thing. We are used to winning games. Like last year, we were spoiled. We are spoiled. We won so many games last year. And it's just that mentality of switching it around, knowing you are going to pick up defeats here and there, but it's 1 win in 4, and it is a bit. We do need players back. We need bodies back. I seem to say every week, God, look at their bench compared to ours, and it's threadbare. But we need to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves down, and the London hoodoo's got a break at some point.
Yeah, it has. Fulham win, the gap narrows to 10 points. Mate, I wouldn't worry about it. We're gonna. I mean, I saw a statistic, and a team on, I think obviously we've got 35, but a team on 40 points, there's a 1% chance of us going down on 40 points. It's literally impossible.
I'm not worried. I see what Tom is saying, 10 points, but we're closer to the top 4 than we are the bottom 3. That's all I'll say at the minute.
Yeah. Joe Griffith says, in the summer, we need a click competitor, a Phillips replacement when he's out, a traditional left-back option, winger maybe, because I remember Connor saying that Jack Harrison seems like a fullback. Yeah, I said that, and I stuck my neck out. I think as a left, I think in this, let's say if we were to play a 3-3-1-3 system, I think Jack Harrison would be a very, very good left wing back. Pep Guardiola initially saw him as a left wing back, and he sort of morphed into a left winger at New York. I think he's got great physicality. I think he's quick, and I think one-on-one, I mean, we've seen he's a good defensive option. He's added a bit to his game, of course he has, but it'd be interesting to see him in that left wing back role. But yeah,
well, we've bought ourselves time, haven't we? We've got what, 12 games left. We're not in any danger of going down. We're not in danger of going down. So we have bought ourselves time to play these players to the end of the season, give them the chance, because I think we're going to recruit again in the summer, and it is exciting times. That's what I mean. That's what's the frustrating side of it. We are progressing, don't get me wrong, but it's just when we throw in performances like that, it's just so frustrating, blown away.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said, mate, I think the big thing is we know we can beat teams like that. But Brownie, we've been going for nearly 50 minutes, mate. I think that's it, unless you've got anything else to say.
No, we're just rolling to London, don't we? Rolling to West Ham and dust ourselves down again. What is it, 9 days away?
Yeah, and we'll have some content throughout that time, guys. So don't worry.
8 days, which gives Rodrigo, Phillips a bit more recovery time. It might be what the players need. You forget it was a lackluster performance, but we played midweek. As that had something to do with it, we played midweek. They didn't. 2 games on that pitch in what, 3-4 days? That won't be easy. So
no.
You've got to keep things relative, haven't you? And I think I touched back to what Morley White said. Yeah, it might sound pessimistic and doom and gloom. It's just, I think we're all frustrated after last night.
Yeah, of course we are, because we're not used to them. We don't like losing, do we? That's the thing with Leeds. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining. Obviously, nobody won the surprise shirts competition, so that is going to roll over again to the West Ham game. So it's now been it's going to be 3 rollovers. We'll have some more content. Obviously, I know we've got a 9-day break, but we'll try to think of something else to do, some talking points. Get it in the comment section below what you want us to talk about. Yeah, and we will get on some stuff in the week, of course. But Brownie, thanks for joining me, and thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you in a bit.
See ya.